let's jump right into it. For the last few years, the whole music industry's argument about artificial intelligence has felt a lot like, well, a really expensive food fight. But in this explainer, we are officially moving past those philosophical debates. Today, we're going to dissect exactly how creators can actively protect and, more importantly, monetize their music rights in the AI era. Because it's absolutely crucial that we stop treating AI as just a hot debate topic and start treating it as a business.
Right now, we're actually seeing two totally different paths unfolding at the exact same time. On one side, you've got the courtroom. For instance, in August 2024, Roundhill Music filed massive copyright lawsuits against Suno and Anthropic. They argued that potentially thousands of their works were used without authorization, and they're asking the court for damages that could hit or even exceed $1 billion. But then, on the other side of the fence, you have the contract. Right around that same time, BMG announced a global strategic alliance with that same AI company, Suno. But this framework is built on an opt-in choice for artists, meaning they actually get compensated for their works. Now, just looking at this impartially, while the courtroom is definitely setting the legal boundaries, the real business future of AI music, it relies on practical, negotiated contracts.
So before you go and casually click opt-in on whatever new AI platform pops up next, here is the blueprint of clauses we really need to review. 1. Unbundling your rights. 2. Deconstructing AI actions. 3. Business mechanics. And 4. Clean data. Okay, let's dive into Section 1, Unbundling your rights. Because music is not just one asset. Honestly, the very first mistake an artist can make here is treating an AI permission like it's a simple, single on-off switch. You know how it goes. A company flashes some cash, you think, hey, I like money, you check a box, and bam. You've just locked yourself into a massively complicated licensing relationship with literally the same amount of thought you'd give to accepting a coffee shop's Wi-Fi terms. You can't do that. Music is not just one right. Under U.S. copyright, a musical composition and a sound recording are completely separate works. Just because you own your master does not automatically mean you own the publishing. And AI? Well, AI adds even more layers to the cake. They might want your lyrics, which belong to the composition. They might want your voice and likeness, which actually gets into state right of publicity laws. Or maybe they want isolated stems, like just your vocal track or your drum beat. Every single one of these items requires its own distinct fence in a contract. Which leads us to this glorious number, 17. Welcome to the modern music business, folks, where we took something as emotional and beautifully human as music, and we turned it into roughly 17 different spreadsheets. And that brings up a pretty vital reality check for you, the creator. Do you actually control all of this? Because if you're tempted to just toss all those rights together and sell them as a neat little bundle, remember that a single song might have a co-writer, a publisher, a licensed sample, and maybe an investor who owns 20% of the master. You might not even have the legal authority to grant those sweeping AI rights all by yourself. Moving right along to Section 2, Deconstructing AI Actions. What does the AI actually do? Calling everything a tech company does with your music AI use is about as unhelpful and imprecise as calling every single transaction at Home Depot house stuff. You really need to know exactly what the machine is doing under the hood. There is a huge, vital distinction here: training versus generation. Giving a company permission to train a model, meaning they use your recordings as data just so the model can learn, does not logically equal permission to launch a commercial product that lets fans generate brand new material connected to your identity. Those are two completely different economic events, and they need to be treated that way. Think about the commercial life cycle of an AI product step by step. First is ingestion, where your data goes into the training set. Second is model development and fine-tuning. Third is commercial generation and outputs. As an independent artist, it is absolutely essential that your contracts specifically define what is allowed at each distinct phase. Are they just training, or are they generating? And hey, if they are generating, can users type in your name to make a commercial track? Can they use it for an advertisement? You have to define this stuff. And please, keep a very close eye on this word, derivative. If you see the word derivative buried inside a paragraph granting broad rights, do not treat it as just legal decoration. It's not parsley. It dictates whether your fans can make harmless, fun remixes of your track, or if a massive tech company is legally allowed to generate fake, official artist recordings that actually compete with your own releases. All right, Section 3, Business Mechanics, following the money and the rules. This is where we follow the money, the territories, and the term lengths, because these mechanics, they dictate who holds the real power. Different AI actions demand entirely different compensation models. And since there's no law requiring one standard payment model, guess what?
You get to negotiate. Notice how model training might command just a flat upfront license fee. But a digital voice experience, yeah, that should probably involve actual revenue participation, and if they want isolated stems, like your raw vocals or your beats, that is a deep look inside your creative kitchen, so that absolutely gets a separate premium fee. Every single permission has to have a specific name and a corresponding price tag.
But here's the crucial point. How is that compensation actually reported? Consider this a massive red flag. On one hand, you could get 20% of a clearly defined dollar. Fantastic, easy math. On the other hand, actually, watch out for this one, you might get 20% of net adjusted platform value after applicable internal deductions. Let me tell you, that second calculation might only buy you half a sandwich. Vague royalty percentages mean absolutely nothing if you don't understand how the platform is calculating those deductions. And to actually enforce that reporting, you need audit rights. This quote from the source material hits the nail on the head perfectly. Rights that seem unnecessary when a check is $43 have a funny way of becoming fascinating when a check should have been $43,000. You might be sitting there thinking you don't need to hire an auditor today. Fair enough. But over a 10-year contract, as your catalog and the platform itself grow in value, these clauses are what actually protect you.
Which brings us to termination. Look, nobody yells, "Play the termination clause" at a concert. It's not glamorous, but a serious AI license needs measurable rules. When the deal eventually ends, does the company have to delete your source files? Do they have to stop training new models on your music? What happens to all the generated content users already made? Remember, a right you cannot withdraw isn't permission. It's a permanent transfer of leverage.
Section 4, Clean Data, Knowing What You Own. So here is the absolute prerequisite for everything we've talked about. An artist literally cannot negotiate an AI contract effectively if their own rights data is a complete mess. Think about it. Songwriter splits, master ownership, publisher control, sample clearances, contributor approvals. Let's be totally clear here. AI did not create these rights problems. It just makes it way easier to expose them when a big opportunity finally knocks. If your response to a massive licensing request is, I think my old bass player might own part of that, but he moved to Arizona back in 2014, well, you're going to have a really hard time closing that sale. And this is exactly why artist-owned data infrastructure is becoming just as important as the music itself. Systems like the Making a Scene Fan Passport ecosystem are built around this very idea. Whether you use their free core or their more advanced pro systems, you can actually build an authoritative source of truth for your rights. You can establish granular licensing policies for territory, voice use, stems, and derivatives way before a company ever even approaches you. When you have that clean data ready to go, opting in transforms from a blind guess into a true empowered business decision. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Are you the architect of your AI contract, or are you just the raw material? The goal here isn't to hide from technology. AI licensing can absolutely become a lucrative new layer in your revenue stack, right alongside your touring and merch. But you have to demand that your permissions have names, boundaries, and price tags. Use AI where it helps, but take control of your music business right now so that when this incredible technology creates value, that value makes its way right back into your pocket. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.